What is up, guys? Welcome back to the third installment of this Universal Genie series. Something that I found is honestly one of the highlights of this whole channel so far, and even more so in this third part. I would say that this is my most produced video, mostly because I think this song is one of the best rap songs ever made, regardless of English, German. I just think, as a lot of you already know, what's contained inside in terms of the rhyme scheme, the lyrics, and the references, it's truly a masterpiece. And me trying to figure out the German within it and understanding it has been, like, seriously so much fun. So we're gonna get right into it and listen to the first line here, okay?
Get high off the trees in the seas.
Die Menschheit ist auf Wanderschaft wie Karawanen, auf verzweifelter Suche nach Kanaan. Die Abraham, die einen beten Allah an, beten Gott oder ja.
And what he's explaining here literally translates in English what I've interpreted as humanity is like a lost caravan, much like Abraham when he left Ur or Mesopotamia to find the promised land, right, which is Canaan. And Canaan, when he left, Abraham wasn't even sure that this place existed. He just knows that God told him to go there and it would be there. And this metaphor, kind of opens up this verse into a discussion about human nature and kind of our innate curiosity to constantly extend and reach out far beyond what we can actually do and seek to understand everything. Sometimes, well, mostly, as you'll see, under the guidance of false pretenses. And the second line continues here.
Wanderschaft wie Karawanen, auf verzweifelter Suche nach Kanaan. Die Abraham, die einen beten Allah an, beten Gott oder Jahwe an. Und viele, ohne es zu wissen, beten Satan an. Denn die Welt, in der wir leben, ist die Dose von Pandora. Wir benehmen uns wie Dionysos in Sodom und...
Talking about humanity again, those, people worship Allah, God, Yahweh, the Jewish God, and without knowing also worship Satan. And this really is talking about, the most evil people really follow these holy religions, but do, commit the worst crimes. And Kollega, I think, positions this in the next line here.
Und viele, ohne es zu wissen, beten Satan an. Denn die Welt, in der wir leben, ist die Dose von Pandora. Wir benehmen uns wie Dionysos in Sodom und Gomorra. Es regiert das goldene Kalb. Schüler Archimedes lassen neuerlichen Turm zu Babel in den Wolken fallen.
As nobody's fault, but our inherent flaw in human nature, really, that he says, because the world in which we live in is Pandora's box, and we behave like Dionysus in Sodom and Gomorrah, which basically Dionysus was like a really bad guy in Greek mythology who was addicted to partying and sex and alcohol and all of the things that would bring a person short-term satisfaction. And so while we may be biologically wired to survive and reproduce and live long lives, we get so confused and mixed up with these myths that are essentially perpetuated by powers that we don't even understand whether they're actually holy or artificially produced by other humans. And I love this line because Pandora's box references this box that once it's open, you're promised, like, I think, a lot of freedom, but with it comes all of the sins and just unknown terror and horror. But once those things come out, it's like a double-edged sword. Once those things come out, they can't be put back in. And so when we go through life, I think what he's trying to say is that we, even though we know things can hurt us, we still have this kind of, string of hope to go on and find meaning in places that really there's no meaning to be found. Kind of like an overcomplication of what it means to live. And I'm not by any means claiming I know what the purpose of life is. Highly debated topic since the beginning of time, basically. What inspires this song in its entirety. And so, as we go further, he says, Es regiert das goldene Kalb.
Benutzt wie Dionysos in Sodom und Gomorra. Es regiert das goldene Kalb. Schüler Archimedes lassen neuerlichen Tore zu Babel in den Wolken verhallen. Du kannst ein Kruzifix tragen und dennoch wandern.
And so here he's referencing the golden calf, or I think it's a metaphor for wealth and riches and basically material items. And these material items like money and power, things that have nothing to do with our like survival, you know, like how we live. Really, it's like we're all about, you know, you have to reproduce, eat, and help community. That's kind of like the most basic, prehistoric survival encoding that's in our biology and evolution. But again, we get confused because he says here, the students of Archimedes renew the tower of Babel in the sky. And what the students of Archimedes references are those skepticists and scientists that are basically saying, you know, you have to question all that's in front of you, and what lies beneath the surface is more often than not the truth behind whatever facade that you might be being influenced by. And a little story about the Tower of Babel. I believe it's a biblical story about this community who was trying to reach God in the sky, building this massive tower that was, you know, in the human's mind, going to grant them immortality or some sort of divine interaction that would really just completely transcend their existence as they knew it. But the tower was actually destroyed by God because it was said that, you know, we, for whatever reason, we didn't, you know, deserve to know what was beyond. And when the tower was destroyed, the community was plucked from, you know, where they currently were. I forget, it's like somewhere in the Middle East, ancient Middle East, and put and those people who witnessed this crazy adventure, you know, were stripped of their ability to communicate with each other, what they saw and what they did, in order to basically silence the next generation and stop them from this, I guess you can say, cognitive renaissance, which is basically this religion and subliminal societal control's worst enemy, right? The ability to ask questions, knowledge, knowing what is true, and actually being scientific in the way you think about things, and not taking any opinion or anything that's said to you for a fact right off the bat, you know? And so this next line, I love this line, mostly for its rhyme scheme. We're gonna let this play here.
In den Wolken fallen. Du kannst ein Kruzifix tragen und dennoch wandeln auf blutigen Pfaden in Luzifers Namen und mutige Taten wie den Aufstand der Kelten unter Boudicca's Fahnen, blutig zerschlagen, seit zu vielen Jahren unterwarf die Welt.
And you know, he says, you know, you can wear your crucifix and yet walk bloodied paths in Lucifer's name, and brave deeds like the revolt of the Celts under Boudicca's fountain are bloodily vanquished and smashed and destroyed. So, you know, again, this rising up to defeat the almighty power, which in this line refers to ancient Rome and the Celtic Holocaust. And I had mentioned on the podcast I made, which is going to come out, you know, after this video is released, when I was talking with one of my German friends about kind of the context of that situation, in which the Holy Roman Empire was cleansing tribal communities in northern and western Europe, basically under the guise of religion claiming that they were not worthy of, you know, life in this, in their eyes, you know, because they were barbaric. They didn't have really a cohesive society that the Romans had, and so they were slaughtered. They were literally slaughtered, and this goes. You can listen to this description in detail if any of you guys want to. I'll put a link to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. It's called, you know, it's the episode called The Celtic Holocaust. It talks all about this. But, you know, back to the song, he's saying, even though you wear this crucifix, this symbol for peace and love, and, you know, this like holy symbol can be weaponized and actually, ironically, used to justify some of the world's most heinous genocides and wars. And so in the next line,
Mutige Taten wie den Aufstand der Kelten unter Boudicca's Fahnen, blutig zerschlagen, seit zu vielen Jahren unterwarf die Welt sich Helden, die wieder Jupiter strahlten, doch bloß Trugbilder waren. Jesus am Kreuz, Prometheus am Felsen, wie Rosenzweige brechen unsere Prophezeiten Helden.
you know, he says, for too many years, the world subjugates heroes that were just mirages, like Jupiter's beaming, shining falsehood, or Jupiter's deceptive solidarity. So Jupiter obviously is the only gas planet in our solar system that looks like a giant ball, like something but if in effect, if it were possible, you could pass through it. It's entirely made of gas, and he uses this to draw comparisons to all of these so-called heroes, which he mentions in the next line, Jesus and Prometheus, that even though they're claimed to be so powerful and immortal by these false, like I said, these false myths that are used to govern and control and influence society, turn out to be nothing but humans, right? They die and they're killed by other humans. And so let's let that line play just to keep some continuity with the song.
Jupiter strahlten, doch bloß Trugbilder waren. Jesus am Kreuz, Prometheus am Felsen, wie Rosenzweige brechen unsere Prophezeiten Helden. Erdbeben sind Herzschläge totgeweihter Welten, in denen bloß Rechte in Not vereinter Obrigkeiten gelten. Die Geschichte ist ein sich wiederholender Zyklus.
And then this next line, okay? Erdbeben sind Herzschläge totgeweihte Welten. Earthquakes are heartbeats of a doomed world in which the powerful exploit for profit. So this is a more modern topic where rich nations and powers exploit the poorer nations for the natural resources, and in effect create climate change and basically the depletion of Earth's fossil fuels, or the creation of fossil fuels through the draining of things like petroleum and even diamonds and other mineral minings that really have some pretty nasty lineage if you look into that, like blood diamonds, and the slave trade, really that it also comes out of those operations. And so I think it's just necessary to mention, this is more of a poetic line. He's personifying Earth or the world, saying these earthquakes are like a heartbeat, of a world that's in pain because we're destroying it again, basically for the reasons of gaining more power, more material wealth, and in value from things like gold, oil, diamonds, other rare minerals. And then, of course, as he starts to close out the song, he has here,
Vereinter Obrigkeiten gelten, die Geschichte ist ein sich wiederholender Zyklus. Doch im Raster verwurbelt sind Muster eines heroischen Mythos. Wir sind da Boden wie Pythons und die Götter da drüber, doch ich erhebe mich.
So, die Geschichte ist ein sich wiederholender Zyklus, which means basically history is a repeating self. Like history repeats itself. That's a phrase we hear so often. And then further, he says, but in the interwoven framework lie these templates for heroic myths. These false heroes, these false prophets that materialize into nothing other than fanciful stories that mislead us into false hope and ultimately distract us from what is actually true and what is the meaning of life. which still is debatable because Kollega does have some religious meanings here, and I'm not sure exactly where he's leaning and how much he actually agrees with religion, whether it's just the values that it produces and he likes that and doesn't take it literally, or I'm not really sure. And then the next line, of course, he really closes it out with a classic Greek mythologic reference.
Muster eines heroischen Mythos. Wir sind am Boden wie Pythons und die Götter da drüber. Doch ich erhebe mich wie Herakles von den Köpfen der Hydra und folge meiner Bestimmung, folge meiner Besinnung. Kollega, neue Zeiten beginnen. The cocaine and the crack.
So he says, we're on the bottom like pythons and the gods above. And in speaking with my friend in the podcast I had mentioned, the gods above, I think, is a reference to this 1%, that controls the world, that pulls the strings and basically decides the fate of those that are essentially peasants, those that have no say. And he says here, but I lift up the heads of the Hydra like Hercules, essentially saying I've slain some of these gods or these false stories, because the Hydra actually wasn't a god itself, but one of the few tasks that was put before Hercules in order to prove that he was worthy enough to conquer the gods. And so Kollega says here I am, I'm lifting up the heads, or I'm lifting myself up. Like I'm going up no matter what, just like Hercules is lifting up the heads of the Hydra, saying like it's beatable if you have knowledge, if you can educate yourself, and if you can see through, these false facades or these facades. That's I think a double. It's kind of contradictory or redundant. And finally, final line. Follow my destiny, follow my consciousness. Kollega, new times begin. Tying it all back together to the first and second verse, Kollega's claim to being the most well-versed, the most versatile, intelligent, and sophisticated rapper that also not only enlightens the rap scene and shows what is possible with this medium, but elegantly, plays, wanders, I think, or balances on two lines here, saying that, yeah, here are the real world problems too, that you really need to be aware of. And like I said, guys, this song is absolutely a true masterpiece, and I had so much fun going through this, dissecting the lines. And if you really want to see more detail or get into more detail of what actually all of these things mean, I have a really nice conversation, like I said, in this podcast with my friend. It's going to be released after this video, so go ahead and check it out, guys. Please give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you want to see more videos where we talk about Kollega lyrics and also a lot of other artists in the German rap genre. But that's all we have for today, guys. Again, thank you for watching. Stay safe. See you later.